Alright, my great and all-powerful master, I have completed my training for the week. Now, what is the next thing to do? What do I do next? What do I do next? Hello? Oh, I get it. I must relax myself before I can continue with my training. Incredible idea! I will follow in your footsteps. Hello again. Welcome to another Toku Ramblings. We move back to Sentai with Juken Sentai Gekirangers, and God, these good seasons are really hard to start with because it's kind of hard to say, oh, this is really great, this is also great. I can't start by saying that this soundtrack is really phenomenal, fitting the hot but the nature of the entire show, from the theme, the kind of more chill, relaxed ending, and again a good chunk of the insert themes throughout. I can honestly say I would listen to this if I worked out, if I ever did work out. So Gekiranger focuses on the conflict between the Confrontation Beast Fist, or Rinjuken, and the Fierce Beast Fist of Juken. Two schools that came about for my masters, whose students fished about what they wanted to explicitly do. In the present, a former student of Gekijuken, Rio, decides to revive the Rinjuken school in search of greater power. And in order to combat this, the leader of Gekijuken, Shaf, who has begun training for years to combat the rival school. John Kudo, a little wild child that they pick up not long after the series begins, becomes Geki. Retsu Fukami, a former painting prodigy who falls in his dead brother's footsteps. Gekijuken, to find out what happened, becomes Geki Blue, and finally Ran Uzaki, who is the heiress to a high-class family, becomes Geki Yao. Of course, there are two more. There's again, Retsu's formerly fought dead brother Go becomes Geki Violet, and Ken Hisatsu becomes Geki Chopper, about 3/4 of the way through the series. So, the big thing that I think helps to make Gekiranger such a standout compared to other Sentai fare is its more serialized nature. Now, a lot of the episodes are still a lot of episodic stuff in nature. You're dealing with specific lessons that have to be learned, but it feels like with each episode they are growing stronger, whether it's gaining new techniques, new weapons, and the like. Also of note is that in this season, the villain duo of Rio and his firstly sidekick Melee are just as important to the main story as well as their growth, which is given equal importance to our heroes as they get their own focus episodes throughout the season to show said growth. That being said, this show really more or less has three major focal points: John, Rio, and Melee. And then after that, the other ones, they still sort of get their own focus and stuff, but it's very clear what the story is specifically about. The rivalry between John and Rio, as that reaches a max near the 3/4 mark. That lack of focus is definitely felt in the additional Rangers of both Go and Ken, who I will say I like. I do think this cast overall is really, really solid. But notably for introducing additional Rangers, they're notably a lot later than usual. Well, Go, with them coming in about the 3/4 mark, and kind of one after another, which does not do Go any favors because he just gets a few focus episodes to himself before he kind of has to step back for Ken, and who gets a little more focus in his initial arc because of his connection to their old master in Bruce E. But after they get Sidine, is that I think that's the name. The Rhino. Oh, or Mecha. He also kind of takes a step back as the series begins to focus heavily on the John Rio rivalry, though after some episodes that focus around each character's family, which are really nice and ends on arguably one of the biggest tragedies I think the series has gone. And again, I like both characters. They both add interesting. I like how Go adds some seniority. Again, its more serious nature helps to offset some of the goofier things that happen. And Ken's just kind of really a lot of fun and more or less his goofier, laid-back nature offers an extremely good counterpart to the more serious nature of his teammates. But, again, I've stated this before. Well, they come in way too late, and the focus immediately shifts to other things that are more important than for this story, which isn't bad. I just wish there was more of them. And on to the main tree. We'll start with least important. It's important. So sadly, Rand does get the least amount of the because of the initial again, not bad. Just this. She serves as the team dead mother, the heart, and as a neat fact, is the group's leader. It doesn't really play out that much because they never really go to her for stuff. She does get some solid focus episodes. I might not like Master Ella Hong, but I think her training episode is solid in its own right. The episode where she becomes an actual mother, the Sukaban episode, her arranged marriage as part of that old family arc we get are really good arc to help her as a character, but it's still not much. Then I wish there was more, because I really like her personality and the actress who plays her. Retsu does get more because of his history with Rio, since his brother was technically killed by him, and that's why he dropped his extremely promising art career to join Scratch. He's a solid Lancer too, John, in my opinion. Serving as a more stoic, serious kind of person too, is more hyperactive, hot-blooded idiot moments, and even teaches him at the beginning, because John is literal child. He is a literal child at the beginning of this season, even though he is a grown man. But he does have silly moments. The maybe one near the end when he comes back to his normal self. The drunk episode is hilarious. Yes, and the highlight of the season. And when his brother does come back, there is decent dynamic, especially again in that family portion where he realizes his brother's been swapped with an evil double. And that leads to the first of the triangle of this season between and Jan, who, as I stated at the beginning of the show, is a literal child. He's a loud, hot-blooded idiot. and who is extremely curious about everything. He has his own language that more or less refers to specific things like Zoa Zoa, being monsters, or Waki Waki being excited. But this does help to give arguably one of the better character arcs overall in Sentai. John has a definitive through line of where he starts to where he is by the end of the season. He might start off loud, annoying, and a bit too hyperactive for some, but they do the right thing to kind of like cool him down as the season progresses, so he's nowhere near as obnoxious if you did not like him initially. Also, something I think that helps to make him better than, say, a couple of 10 hop-out runs is that he actually does fail and more or less shows moments of weakness, because when they're training to master Kaigeki, he's the only one to fail his task, whereas his fellow trainees succeed in there. And it's for his own faults of being impatient and lacking the maturity, the things. And when he learns his dad has become essentially one of the main monsters, and that he's destined to fight that stress causes him to more or less be like, no, I'm done with this. I am not going to more or less be a part of this. This is too much stress for me. Like, even the catchphrase he does end up getting in Pork Cubes, still which he uses whenever they fire off the can it make sense in the lesson he learned about patience. And so it's just him reminding himself of that. And that's what I think makes him such a stand at Ranger, and why arcs are always good. But you see a line of a character who starts somewhere and ends in a much indifferent place that makes sense throughout. In terms of the people who are on our hero side, Masaki family is an overall enjoyable group. Even though child actors can be very hit or miss, I enjoyed her whenever she did. Mostly because she didn't act like a standard Sentai child. And Miki served as a solid technical advisor. And got some solid episodes when she was shown to fight, like when Natsume was more or less taken captive by one of the monsters of the week, and her Sukuban origins when Ran was turned into one was funny. And then there are the Beast Sage Fists, which are mixed. Don't get me wrong, Shafu is probably one of my favorites mentors. Just this Miyagi-style character. They're not in the way of the grandpa from Ninja, but lessons that are actually helpful instead of just being a troll teaching lessons instead of just him being a dick. And he was so relaxed instead of just annoying. Points. The other mentors are kind of mixed. I like half of them. I think Sharkichi and Vatley and Gory Yan are enjoyable, and when they get episodes that they show up in, and it's a lot of fun. Both Michelle and Pyeon are kind of more forgettable. And then Elahung. Remember I said that these series, that this season kind of took some notes from a lot of battle and sports manga as well. Elahung is Master Roshi without the charisma. And is yet another example of perverted old master. This is so funny. I get this is funny to some people in Japan, but it's just, I just don't like it that much. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of Juken, there is Rin. And so, the three masters of Kata, Geku, and Manku, I do think serve as decent, like, interim general slash villains. Kata and Geku are solid. It's just not much is done with the fact that they are technically past Juken. There's like, we get where the Ragaku more or less had past feelings for Shafu, which is shown in her episode where she's training melee. Like, but outside of that, there's really not much else. Which does sort of pick up once Maku enters the picture, who is, for all intents and purposes, a much more interesting and kind of like middle of the season villain to sort of shape. So, I like that he's sort of an antithesis to everything the Fifth Sage is worded at this point. Even to his comrades, who they at least were trying to teach both Rio and Melee to be better fighters. For Maku, Rio is just a punching bag for his own strength and nothing else. He is the only thing that matters is himself, and that is about it. I liked Bay whenever he was out to comment in fights, but that was sort of his only thing in the show, was just to commentate on fights and sort of get abused by Melee, sort of some comedy there. The episode he got with Go was honestly also really solid and getting good interactions that I think led to them kind of being paired, not romantically, in the final episode where they kind of all go their own separate way. Which leads us now to the real stars of this show, Rio and Melee. So, Melee's entire character is about her devotion to Rio. Everything she does for strength is to become stronger for her. Whether it's helping him get what he needs to grow stronger, or of course growing stronger to stand by him. Again, this series is just as much about them as it is about our heroes, and it's shown as early as like episode 9, 8, where it's focused on her trying to become stronger to take on a rebelling student who plans to kill Rio. So she more or less goes out to try and more or less find a way to stand up again. And it was at this point that I think Gekiranger really started to pick up. Like, the first 10 episodes or so are not bad. It's just a fairly standard early arc thing, introducing a lot of concepts and things into the series with okay, initial enemies, but not the greatest. But after Melee's episode, I really think this show just starts to fire and all. And again, that love drives the character throughout the story. Every action sheet, standing alongside him when he's essentially thrown off of his plateau as the leader of Juken by Ma, who are trying to find a way to regain that power. We're standing against Long when he plans to do something. She arguably, in my opinion, when she does get the focus, I feel gets some of the better episodes. She is the standout if Rio was not in this show, and boy, this is a great villain, in my opinion. He really wants to get stuff done. As early as third, when he shows up, it's abundantly clear how much of a serious threat he is. Yes, I think the actor does a great job showing that intimidation and that presence. Since when he does come out to fight, it is always treated as something serious and oh my god, this guy is going to tear us up. Partly, yes, he falls into the standard battle manga rival trappings of I want to beat you at your straw. But it makes sense for him because he wants to be the strongest fighter in the world, and if he beats his opponents when they're not at their best, then what's the point? Not at all, and he arguably has the upper best arc of this show. So not only in growing in strength, but realizing that he has been used for the sake of another villain. In this case. Yeah, he's long. Like, he doesn't turn. For the most part, he is a complete and utter dick. Who more or less wants to crush the heroes, especially John. Because he sees him as a potential equal. Well, but when he realizes what he's been tricked into doing, he at least acknowledges it. And both of their deaths at the end of the series it's peak. It's, in my opinion, a peak thing that this franchise has done. Outside of him, there's the final trio of villains in Long, Sanyo, and Long might not be the most complex villain, but I think he makes up for just being one of the most hateable villains this franchise has ever done so far from when I mean, he is such an amazing manipulator for and again, the acting just sells it. God, this probably has some of the best acting in the series, in my opinion. He doesn't fight much, but when it's clear that he is not someone to trifle, and again, it's nice when villains are just pushed by the fact that they're bored and want to hurt people instead of just domination. It's nice to have those plans, but it's also nice to see the other side. Aside from him, Sanyo is his like goofier muscle head who doesn't know when to shut up. And Sugu, talking about Sugu, who also entails talking about his connection with Jim, which is arguably a nice cap off to that like little revered family arc they have going for it. Which, shows all of the relationships and the positive sides of it. And it's just to feel that, oh yeah, John's father is a mindless drone to Long, right? Now, and that definitely hurts in some ways, but he's a lot more of a character and backstory because of who he is. He's also played by Kenji Oba, so there's props there. But as in the present, he is mostly just an enforcer. So, before we get to the overall aesthetical design and aesthetics of the show, I do want to cover both movies since, unlike a good chunk of other projects we've talked about, there's only really 2 movies, and there's really not much to talk about unless I want to make a really short episode. So, I think the summer movie that premiered alongside Deno is probably one of the better like little like 30-minute startup things this show has going. Well, its action is solid by the series standards, and I will say that the series is arguably one of the best choreographed the series has ever done. The martial arts are always shown and are spectacular, and the roll call is long but really solid. At a point, the film kind of, especially in like the ending, just feels like one long Hong Kong commercial for its food scene. Meaning, like, I really want to eat that food that I see there, but the other points like me, like, I sort of see what you're doing here, but it's a solid, like, early adventure. The film technically premiered after the introduction of a lot of things, so it's a lot of basic equipment they're using in fighting stuff, likely to keep from spoiling the later stuff, but it's disappointing to not see certain characters. Again, it's a solid, kind of their story. The Versus movie, on the other hand, might just be the weakest one I've seen overall, so Boken Red and Boken Pink are evil now, for some reason that's never explained. The film starts with them on a moon, and then something happens to them. And so now the other Bokenders plus the Gekirangers need to that why they have stolen these two gems, which is in relationship to this universal, so evil, full cosmic Kenpo master who Bruce Lee defeated long ago. It's just, this whole film just feels so undercooked. Like a member of the villain faction a villain from one of the villain factions from Bokender, like, shows up for the beginning and doesn't show up again. Why is she here? There could have been other ways of more or less getting the jewel into the story from the Gekiranger's point. And the interactions with the teams are so weak. Like for starters, both Satoru and Sakura are brainwashed through most of it, and don't get to spend much time with them until the info dump near the end about why they got there. And both Go and Ken just show up out of nowhere to help Silvo fight this hippo monster, who's also helping Pachamama. And just, the Gekirangers don't feel in character. Rand just keeps spouting off about Heart like it's her only trait, being this live-action version of Taya. Kudo is struggling. John is struggling up a mountain, even though he's supposedly the unbreakable body who's read an entire episode showing he had buttloads of stamina, and yet is struggling with a mountain? And just, the others really don't leave much of it in. The villain that's introduced for the movie is not interesting, and his connections to Juken feel more forced. The end fight, while he's just the Rangers getting pushed around by the main force for the initial portion before gaining their second win. It's a shockingly mediocre movie, all things considered. It's probably the weakest one. Yes, the Ninja more or less technically has something over Gekiranger. Do with that what you want. Moving to arguably less disappointing things, the overall series I think looks phenomenal. No, the main suits are fairly simple tracks, with black accenting patterns of each ranger's respective animal. Ironically, this show also has the same intro of Ninja of a weirdly placed, like, white port. It's not as noticeable because it's just the necks, so it's not as noticeable. Though, weirdly enough, when they change into the super forms of Kaigeki, the color is now black when the entire outfit is white. I guess since they're inverting everything, that also goes for that. But I also do think the super form also looks solid in the reverse sort of aspect. That goes for it, that works well, and the weapon itself is all kinds of cool, and also using the claw patterns as now boosters to more or less fly out. Geki Violets also look good befitting the Muay Thai boxing the character is primarily doing, but it's completely overshadowed by Gekiranger, which only premieres a few episodes after. The words, the gi look of it all, the white that's made to stand out thanks to the inclusion of both black and orange. And the horn that is actually used as a weapon is legitimately really great. Hey, I like Rio and Melee's Juken's suits. Rio's as an intimidating lion with regal black and gold, and Melee's chameleon mixes well green and purple. And, that goes for a lot of the Juken monsters. They all look good. Like, two exceptions. The pig from the worst episode in the season. He's in Barn None, and then Ostrich. I think it was an ostrich. Ostrich. The changers are overall really the gauntlets that the initial trio uses is, for starters, it is a unique design, which always gets some points for me, and mixes well into the main costume. And both the gong changer that Go ends up getting and can side blade changer are also solid, though I kind of prefer the more sleekness of the gauntlet changers by comparison. Then I'm also not fond of the side blade when it goes into gun form, because it just doesn't feel right. Like, the main mech is also astonishingly good. It's a much more slimmed down kind of Zord compared to a lot of other mechas, and it really works for this kind of series. And the fights with the mech are actually really solid this season, in my opinion. I think an issue with this and the other one, Geki Fire, it also has its own issues. Like, it kind of goes back to the more bulkier design of other suits. Is that, again, Red very much a center stage with these overall. All in the fact that it's the entire top from the head down to like the midsection and then yellow and blue serve more as legs than anything else. It's a little disappointing that they're not mixed well, and to an extent it's not a good balance of color, but I think it's helped by just how overall solid the main design is. And I like how Toja still gets used even after the main trio switches over to their new super mech, since Go ends up using it by swapping out the cheetah for a wolf. Well, depending on who you are, it is a little disappointing that he doesn't get his own unique mecha and just has to deal with table screen. So I think that's kind of made up for with Sidine. Again, it's a more standard design for mecha, but I think it really does look solid. Again, everything about this series aesthetically looks amazing. The fight choreography is arguably some of the best the series has ever done, leaning well into that Chinese martial arts aesthetic it has going for it. This is sans the middling of the Gekiranger versus Gekiranger film. This is arguably one of my favorite Sentais at this point. I haven't seen this point, but this is legitimately really solid. If you're kind of tired out by a lot of Sentai tropes and more or less some series feeling samey, this is a worthwhile watch. Jen, sheesh, only one video for an entire series. After driving, it feels nice to be done with something in one video. Not like I know supporting the movie onward, but man, I was getting tired of the movies. Anyway, right, you know the usual things to do to help me with the YouTube algorithm, and we'll see you around.